Today we'll be talking about all the watercolors. Hey everyone, welcome to another video. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Irit. I'm a watercolor and mixed media artist based in Austria in Europe. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and leave me a comment. If you didn't, you can give it a thumbs down just to help me know what you want to see more. This will be a three-part, it looks like it's going to be a three-part series just because it's very heavy on the info and I have to actually do research, which I don't appreciate. So I have divided it to three parts. So if you want to make sure that you catch the next parts of the series, subscribe. I would love to have you here. The goal of this video is to kind of help you understand what each of the brands I'm going to talk about offers and if it should be in your collection. Now, I want to state from the beginning that, of course, what I'm going to say today is my opinion and it's based on my experience, but a lot of it is just, facts. Where is the watercolor made or how many colors there are in the range? But it is my experience. And I also want to say that in general, from the brands that I have tried, I really find almost all artist grade watercolors, known brand names, to be very, very good choices. And I recommend to choose whether as a starting set or kind of your go-to paint. I would recommend to choose something local to you if possible, because that just means that, and I'll talk about specific examples later in the video, and Daniel Smith, it will save you money because you won't have to pay for import taxes, customs, all those things. So it does make a big difference. And yeah, if you have the option to buy something that is made in your country or continent, then it is a good idea. Unless you have very, very specific preferences, I think you can pretty much find wherever you are in the northern hemisphere, if you're in Asia or Europe or the US, Canada, North America. I don't know about brands in the southern hemisphere, so I do apologize for that. If you're there, you know something, let us know in the comments which brands you recommend. But you can pretty much find in your continent a good go-to option. Specialty colors, that's another topic, and I think for a different video, if you want to see that, kind of like my must-haves that are worth paying customs and hunting down from other parts of the world, let me know in the comments. I've done that in the past, but I'm sure I have all kinds of updates and, my preferences for sure changed. So without further ado, let's start with the first band. I will put timestamps below, so if you want to skip around, you can just do that. Every brand that I'm going to mention, I'm going to kind of divide it to 9 categories. The first one is where it's made. The second one is what kind of format it offers, meaning tubes, pans, sticks, that sort of thing. Third, the color range, how many colors it includes in the range. Number 4 is just the general range of prices. I can't give you the price for every series. I can, but who wants that? Just go look if you're interested. But I will give you a general range from the cheaper series to the more expensive series in each range. The next category is if you can find online good swatches, which I think is very helpful because I'm assuming this was true for many before the pandemic, but now I'm guessing that a lot of us mostly shop online or buy or maybe exclusively online. So having a good kind of reference and swatches online is very, very helpful. Then the 6th category is going to be the formula, what I think of the formulation of the paint from my experience. The 7th category will be the first set. So if you are completely new to watercolors, I do have a guide to help you figure out which supplies to start with, because it is very hard and it's very overwhelming. But in this series, I'm going to give you specific recommendations from each brand for what I would consider is a good choice for your first ever watercolor set. So hopefully this will be very helpful. And the next category is for the not first set, like what I would buy next after that first set from a particular brand. And then the last but not least category are the duds and the don'ts. Just products that either I tried myself and didn't work for me, or that I don't think are worth to spend money on. So, a lot to talk about. Let's get started. I'm gonna start with Aquarius. Aquarius is made in Poland. They have full pans. That's the only format I've seen, except one travel set that they have on Jackson's, which has half pans in it. Their range is a very nice 165 colors. Most of them are single pigment colors, and it is a really nice color range with a few specialty colors. Their series 1 costs on Jackson's, I can check all the places, so please do your research because prices vary greatly, and I'll give you an example later. But I just used Jackson's because they have a really wide range of watercolors, and all the watercolors that I'm going to talk about are available there, or almost all of them. So the series 1, the cheapest series, is $3.29, and then the series 4, the more expensive one, is $5.78 as of day of filming, which is a really good price. They do have a hand-painted swatch card online, and you can see pretty well how the color looks, so it's kind of okay to shop online. I like Aquarius. It's a really good option for getting a lot of paint for your dollar. The formula is very creamy and easy to work with. I really enjoy painting with them. I looked at the sets that they have, and for the first set, like if I didn't have any watercolors or someone that didn't have any watercolors told me I want to buy my first set from Aquarius, my choice would be the Pasqualino Fracasso, isn't that beautiful, set of 24 full pans. And on Jackson, this set costs $88, which is a really good price for a set of full pans. Mostly this is kind of the range that you will find for half pans. So you're getting a lot more paint. I don't think it's double, but it's definitely like almost double for the same price. And I really love the color choices of this particular set. It has some really good basics that allow you to mix pretty much everything, but they also have some of the special colors in the Aquarius collection, and it's just really beautiful. The only thing is, if you go for that, you will need to buy also a palette because it comes in a cardboard box. Yeah, the other sets that they have also some 12 sets. The travel set, I wasn't very inspired by the color choices. They are kind of basic, and you will be able to mix a lot of colors using them, but I just thought that particular set was really beautiful and really is a beautiful introduction to the range. And that would be my recommendation if you have the budget for a beginner's set, your first set of watercolors. You will get a lot of painting done with this, and you will also get the joy of using some unique colors that are usually not included in starter sets. For the next step, if you already have a good artist grade set, I would just pick a few single pans. You can try some of the more expensive pigments such as the cobalt for a very user-friendly price before you commit to, let's say, a larger tube from a different brand. So, you know, for like $5–6, you can try a really nice pigment that mostly the expensive pigments are not included in starter sets, and they're kind of the next step, in my opinion, when you want to explore more pigments, more paint, more brands. So that would be my next pick from this range. As for the does and the don'ts, I did have a couple of pans that I wasn't too crazy about the formula. One of them is Cobalt Violet. It will be mentioned again in this video just because it's a color that I personally adore and always have in my palette. And of course, turns out is also a color that is very hard to formulate, and a lot of brands don't get it right, in my opinion. And Aquarius, while I do really love their formulation pretty much across the board, and I've tried several dozens of their paints, that one was a little bit of a dud. I also didn't really like their lavender. It was just a little bit anemic compared to other brands that I've tried. But other than that, I think the brand is great. Another product that I think is a little bit problematic, and it looks very beautiful, is they have this like really lovely kind of wooden box set of, I think, 36 colors. You get a ton of paint in that. I wouldn't buy it for myself because I like to switch colors around, and it has like this plastic insert where you put the pans in, and any other brand will not fit or won't fit properly, which is really annoying to me. That's why I prefer palettes that allow you to switch around, introduce new brands. Yeah, pan size is not standard across brands, if you didn't know that, which is very frustrating. I think that should be the law of the land, so we can switch around our watercolors without the struggle. So I wouldn't recommend that set as kind of like a go-to set. However, if you want to gift someone a beautiful present of, you know, European watercolors, if, you know, you're in the States and this is something more like interesting or luxurious from across the pond, and or, you know, you only like to use one brand in a certain palette, which I'm personally totally against, but you do you. It's okay. There's no judgment. I just think you're missing out. Okay, I'm done. But if you think you will only use that, it is pretty. And, you know, if you like natural materials, you know, it has like that wooden box, although inside there's plastic. So I'm not a fan of this particular palette, but you might find it fits your needs, or it's like a really nice present for someone who collects maybe sets of watercolors from across the world and would keep it like this. It's one of those things that I do think, and I'll probably mention a few in this series, if you collect art supplies, I do think some of the things I'm going to mention will be worth more in many years to come. So maybe your kids can auction it, your grandkids can auction it and make a little bit of money, or, you know, it'll be something really cool, like these are the watercolors that my great-great-grandma used, you know, if the planet survives. It's kind of bleak for the last video for this year. So that was Aquarius. Next up, the one, the only, Daniel Smith. Okay, Daniel Smith is a US brand. It's made in the US. It comes in 15 milliliter tubes, 5 milliliter tubes, half pans, and sticks. The range includes a whopping 261 colors, the #1 in the industry, unparalleled. It does include all kinds of like specialty colors that I'm sure for a lot of us are not really relevant, like interference and iridescent and all those kinds of things, but it still surpasses any other color range. That would be probably one of the reasons that, you know, if someone told me you must use only one brand for the rest of your days, I would probably go with Daniel Smith just because it gives you the most options. The full range only comes in 15 millimeter tubes. I couldn't find how many colors come in 5 milliliter tubes. I'm guessing it's somewhere between 60 and 90, I want to say. In half pans, you have some sets, and then you have 45 colors that you can buy open stock. So it's an okay range, but it's just like a handful of their entire color range. And the sticks come in 51 colors. The prices range incredibly depending on if you're in the US or if you are outside of the US. And that's why I'll just give you my bottom line. Personally, I think if you are outside of the US, I wouldn't go for Daniel Smith as my go-to paint, even though the paint is really, really good. But I would rather invest in unique paints. That is what I do personally, and that is what I think is just like a better use of your money, especially if you're in Europe where there are a lot of other options that are really, really good. On Jackson's, the price for the Series 1 is $15, a little bit over $15. And then the Series 5s, these are like the most expensive ones, are a whopping $31. I don't think there's any paint out there that is more expensive. If you go and check on Dick Blick or an American-based shop, you will see that the prices are about 2/3 of that. So in Europe, you pay around 50% more for this paint than you do in the US. I'm guessing it's similar in other parts of the world, but I don't know for sure. Okay, let's talk a bit about the formula. The formula is good of the paint. It kind of varies, I would say, from the brands that I've tried, probably has the largest variation, but also Daniel Smith has the largest variety of pigments, and every pigment behaves differently, and so the formulation needs to change in order to make the watercolor, workable and nice to use. So there are some variation. It is more on the dry side compared to other brands that I've tried, but I really like it for travel. And what I do every time I sit down to paint, I spray with a bottle of water spray all of my watercolors, and then as I'm painting, they kind of get juicy and ready to go. So I highly recommend that, especially if you're using Daniel Smith, especially if you're using their like minerals and Primatech colors. Those tend to be a little bit drier. They kind of need a little bit love and care to work as good as they can. I really love Daniel Smith for travel. I think it's really, really lovely to travel with because it is drier and it doesn't like move around in your palette. I will say about the sticks, personally, I'm not a huge fan of the sticks. They're kind of a bit weird for me to deal with. I can't really put them in my palette. They move around. You kind of have to stick them in because they are drier, because they have that weird shape. I don't know. I'm not a fan. They didn't really work for me. I'm sure some people love them. For your first set, if you've decided to go with a Daniel Smith set as your first artist grade set, I would recommend their 24 half pan set that comes in a metal tin, and Daniel Smith very cleverly included another empty metal tin with the set, which really allows you to grow your collection and adjust it and play around with colors. Now, as for the price, just to give you an idea, on Jackson, that set costs $168, which is a lot for a 24 half pan set, in my opinion. And if you go to Dick Blick, that same set costs $114, so $50 less if you're in the US. And that price is more reasonable and it's kind of okay. You could find probably a bit cheaper sets, but it's a good price. So again, that brings me to the conclusion that, yeah, if you're outside the US, it will cost you to use Daniel Smith as your go-to. I do appreciate their 24 half pan set because it does include a good selection of basic colors that allow you to mix a lot of other colors, which every starter set should have. But it also has some interesting choices such as cobalt turquoise, so that's a bit more of an expensive pigment, and undersea green, which is just one of their nicer greens. And nice greens are hard to find. So I really, really like this set. And if you're in the US, that would be a really lovely choice for a first set. Their swatch gallery is fantastic. On the Daniel Smith website, you can find beautiful swatches that not only show you how the colors look, but also how they look side by side, which is so clever, especially when you have such a huge color range. It makes so much sense, and well done, Daniel Smith. For your next set, I personally really love the Jean Haines set. I think it has special colors, unique colors that you don't really see in sets, and it's a great introduction to the brand. There are other sets that are curated by known artists. I looked a bit, there are a few that look great, but a lot of them still have some basic colors, which is understandable. But yeah, you know, it's if you already have watercolors, you probably have some of those. And so I think the Jean Haines is a really great kind of add-on to a basic set. I also recommend trying their dot cards because that really gives you the experience and a good reference of how colors look. Something you can hold in your hand. You don't have to go online to look at swatches. So I really recommend buying that. And also I like their Primatech set. These are kind of unique to Daniel Smith, also, although more and more companies are starting to catch up and introduce more kind of specialty paints, granulating paints, all those things. But the Primatech set is still nice, and it is a good introduction to, you know, kind of more special watercolors beyond the basic range that most brands offer. The duds. Let's talk about the duds. So, Cobalt Violet, yes, I hate the Daniel Smith version. I think it's one of the worst out there. Don't waste your money on it. I don't like their plastic cases. They are only good if you really, really want to try only the colors that come in those palettes. The price in Europe it's way overpriced for what you get. Like the sets, like 6 half-pan sets in this plastic case cost $50 here in Europe, or at least on Jackson's, which I think is ridiculous. And personally, I wouldn't spend my money on that. The plastic cases are okay for carrying around extra pans, but you can't really use it because it leaks. I've talked about it in the past on my channel. So yeah, that to me is a total dud, and the range has such beautiful, beautiful options then that there's really no reason, in my opinion, to choose those plastic containers. Next, we have Golden. Okay, it's actually Core, so technically it should probably be in the next part of the video, but I already made the work, so we're gonna do it now. Golden, Core. This is another American-based company. They are very well known for their acrylics. I think they kind of took over the world by storm with the Golden acrylics, which are beautiful, no doubt about it. Again, much more expensive in Europe because you pay those import taxes. So these come in 11 milliliter tubes, usually kind of the standard, the industry standard for watercolor paint is usually 15 milliliters or more. I think Sennelier actually makes 10 milliliter tubes, but they are much cheaper. So yeah, that to me is very, very annoying because it's just you get even less for your dollar, and these are expensive paints. They come only in tubes. You have the 11 milliliter tubes that you can buy open stock. You have their introductory sets, which have 5 milliliter tubes, which is kind of standard for introductory set, and then you have one travel set that has half pans. But the only thing you can find open stock are the 11 milliliter tubes. Their range has 86 colors in it. It's okay. There's nothing there that is very exciting. They don't really have any special colors that are unique to the brand, at least not ones that I can think of. Correct me in the comments by all means if you have like a color that is a go-to core, can't find it in any other range, would love to know. It's just not on par with what other brands are offering these days. So again, to show you how the prices vary here, on Jackson's, the Series 1 tube will cost you $14. $14 for 11 milliliter tube. But if you check at Dick Blick's in the US, it's $9.37. And then the Series 4, which is the most expensive one, on Jackson's, it's $22. And on Blick's, it's $14, almost $15. So quite a huge difference. Basically, we pay 50% more for these paints here in Europe. if you're outside the US, I can't recommend this as a go-to paint. You're paying way too much for what you're getting. The online swatches I could find on their website, and they're actually pretty good, but you kind of have to go to each color individually. So it is rather well made, but it would also be nice to just have one kind of hand-painted swatch card. Okay, the formula is really lovely. It's very easy to work with. It re-wets beautifully. It's one of the things that I noticed when I started using Core, is that you really get that you know, pigment payoff very easily. You don't have to give them a lot of love and care like you do with some other colors before you want to use them. And what is unique about them, and I've made a dedicated video for that, is how they kind of push around other colors. The assumption here that it is because they use a very unique binder, which is called Aquazol, which they have a patent on, so you can't find it in other brands. However, Loophole, they sell this thing in a bottle. I think they just call it like watercolor medium, and basically you can add it to your other watercolors. I wouldn't add it to all of them because then it kind of cancels out that effect. But if you want one color to push another color from other brands, then you can use, it pretty much works across brands from what I've tried, but you can make a color pushy by adding a little bit of that watercolor medium to it. So you don't need to buy the Core ones. So if you wanted your first set to be a set by Core, which again, I only recommend if you're in the US, because otherwise you're just paying way too much for what you're getting. I really like their 24 5ml tube set, although again you will need to buy also a palette to use this set. It's a nice set. The paint is very nice. It costs on Jackson's $130, and on Blick's it costs $77, which is a much nicer price. So I would say if you're in the US, it's a good price for that set. However, if you don't want to fall in love with these colors and then have to pay the high price tag all the time, maybe you should choose another brand to fall in love with. For your next set, if you wanted to try the brand, I really love their High Chroma set. It has a beautiful selection of colors, including my beloved Cobalt Teal, which is a more expensive pigment, so it's a good way to test it out and see if it's a must-have in your palette. It's a must-have in mine. And also their travel set, it's kind of unique. It has disadvantages because you can't very easily change the colors, but I have it and I really like it. It has that, you know, je ne sais quoi, sorry about my horrible French accent, but there's something about it that I do find appealing, and it's just a little bit different. The palette is a little bit different, and the paint is very responsive. So you get like huge amounts of pigmentation very easily, which is an advantage in a travel set. You don't want to have to like wait for your colors to activate. You can just like really go in and get that intense color payoff immediately. So I really like that set. But yeah, you can't change it around so easily, and you don't have other half pans from Core that you can switch in. You can only, you know, fill it or kind of have to take it apart, which is not as easy as with a metal palette. It's kind of, things are like stuck in there. It's kind of, for me, it's like one of those sets that I use as is, and I do enjoy it, but yeah, it's not perfect. Dud. Their Cobalt Violet sacks. Shocker, I know. It's full of binder. I really kind of ached at the amount of money that I spent on this. What can I tell you? I know it's a color that is hard to formulate. If you want to try it, if you want to try Cobalt Violet, I recommend finding a brand that offers it in a half pan, because usually that formula is a safer bet. But yeah, don't waste your money on the Core one. And yeah, it's just like, in general, it's just way too expensive to be my go-to paint. And as good as it is, it's not good enough for me, personally. That's my opinion. Okay, next, let's move on to something more exotic from the Far East, Holbein. So Holbein is a Japanese paint. They come in 15 milliliter tubes, 5 milliliter tubes, and sets of half pans. They have 108 colors in their range. It's a really nice color range, including some more unique paints, although there are kind of more and more dupes out there. All of their colors come in the large tubes and the small tubes, which I really appreciate because I don't want to commit to a large tube before I know that I like the paint. So it's nice to have the option to buy a 5 milliliter tube, see how you like it, and then invest in the larger tube. The Series 1 costs on Jackson's between $12 and $20.50 for the expensive series. And the 5 milliliters from $7.48 to $10.47. However, if you're in Europe, check out Petels Out. It's a German-based shop, and I don't know how, but they have incredible prices for Holbein. I order my beloved Bright Rose from there. A 15 milliliter tube of Bright Rose, even though it's not a light fast color, is €6.35, which is an incredible price. And even their cobalts is like €9. So if you're in Europe, check out that shop. I will hopefully leave a link below. Yeah, so the price is kind of okay. It's a little bit more expensive than the average of European brands if you're in Europe. On Jackson's, they have a hand-painted chart of the colors, so it's like pretty decent. The formula is very solid, consistent. I haven't tried a ton of their paints, but I have tried quite a few. I really enjoy them. They're very easy to work with, and they re-wet really well. It's a good choice, especially I guess if you're in the Far East. So this is more of the local to you. And of course, if you're in Japan, then for sure. If you want your first set to be from Holbein, I looked at the range that they have, the sets that are available, at least on Jackson's. I didn't see anything that jumped to me. I think their basic set have a little bit of, I don't know, just a color range that, yes, it's basic. Yes, you can mix a lot of colors from it, but it didn't really speak to me. Their half pan sets are more expensive because they come in all kinds of like weird or different boxes that look very interesting, look very nice. There are some great, you know, unboxings and swatchings on YouTube that will make you want to buy all the stuff. For your next set, you might want to consider trying their pastel set. I don't know if this is widely available, but if you're in Europe, Petals Out, that's where you should go. And it's a really lovely set of their pastel colors, and this is what I would say is probably a little bit more unique compared to other brands, although again they're starting to copy some of these colors. Like Daniel Smith came out a few years ago with wisteria and lavender, and Holbein has had those colors in their range for years. So they have really pretty colors. Again, they are pastel, they have a bit of white in them, they are a bit more opaque, but they are fun to paint with. So those could be fun to try, or you can just pick up a couple in, you know, open stock tubes if you don't want to invest in the entire set. If you are a collector of art supplies, or if you know someone who collects supplies, you know, from maybe all over the world, they do offer some unique cases and boxes that look really interesting. Again, I think this is the kind of item that will probably be worth more in, I don't know, 50 years, 100 years. It could be a really cool kind of vintage item in the future, because now it's not vintage. But yeah, so if that's something that sounds interesting to you, then maybe go check their kind of cases. They're a little bit special and different than what other brands offer. Very high price tag, and so I was never tempted to try them, but you know, maybe it'll speak to you, or maybe you have a friend that really loves anything that comes from Japan, and they are also artists, so that could be a beautiful present. If you are one of those people who are not scared to dive into the net and search for things, they had some special products, Holbein, that they made with a wonderful Japanese artist called Higuchi Yuko. I hope I'm not butchering the name. And these are very, very hard / impossible to find, and they are expensive, but they're very unique and very beautiful. And if someone bought me them, I would be very grateful and happy. Nobody that buys me anything is watching these videos, so yeah, I just wanted to mention it. If that's kind of your thing, like really, really cool, unique, rare, hard to find art supplies, this one I would say is worth diving into the deep internet and maybe trying to find. I think they also made pencils. Ooh, the Holbein pencils. Those are nice ones. Yeah, so do's and don'ts. I personally haven't had any bad experiences. I haven't tried a ton of their paints, just a few, but I don't have any like bad recommendations. I think they have a few colors that are special. Their bright rose is my precious, my beloved. I always want it in my palette. And yeah, I think I covered everything I have to say about this brand. Okay, last but not least for today is a little bit boring, a little bit German. I'm not saying those two have to go hand in hand. If you're from Germany, if you're German, I love you. You're Austria's big sister. We know how much the Austrians and Germans love each other. Okay, so Lukas is made in Germany. They come in 24 milliliter tubes or full pans, although on Jackson's I think I've only seen the tubes. In my local shop I can also find the full pans. And they also have sets of half pans. That is what I have seen. They have a 70 color range, which is kind of boring, not so inspiring, not so exciting. The price range for all of the paints on Jackson is a bit less than $11, except I found the Cobalt Violet, of course, is a little bit more expensive and costs $13 for a 24 milliliter tube. That's a big tube of paint. I couldn't find online swatches of this unless, you know, you start going to Google Images. And then, I don't know, I tried to go on their website. Google told me it's not really safe, or like my antivirus or whatever. I didn't want to go there, so not easy to find. But in store, I know they have. Like, I've bought mine. Usually I buy mine in store, and there in my store they had them. But I know it doesn't help you if you're buying from, you know, online. This is a really great option if you are in Europe and you go through a lot of paint and you want something very, very affordable. The formula is very solid, and I don't mean like solid as the paint is solid, although it is in the pans, but it's just like, you know, good German formulation, and it's very easy to work with. Again, great option if you're starting out, if you're, you know, student, if you want to buy this for someone a bit younger. You get a lot for your money, and yeah, especially if you're in Europe. If you're outside of Europe, I don't know how this is priced. For a first set, I would definitely consider buying the 24 half pans in a metal tin. It costs 73 euros from what I saw. Online I found this, and it's a good price for a good set of colors. I think there are some slightly more inspiring options out there, but if that's what you have available to you, it's a good choice. The next step beyond a basic set, if you want to try the brand, I would just go for tubes or full pans if you can get them. And I personally like the Naples Yellow Red and the Cobalt Turquoise, and they're very, very affordable. So yeah, the only negative thing I have to say about this brand is that the color range is very uninspiring. There's really nothing special there, except the Naples Yellow Reddish. I think that color is a little bit special, but other than that, there's nothing that I would say like, yes, hunt this down, this is worth it. But if you have it in your local shop and you go through a lot of paint, or you have, you know, a young artist in your family that goes through a lot of paint, Lukas is a really, really great choice. I'm exhausted. I hope this was helpful to you. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have anything to add, to correct, to highlight, please leave it in the comments below. Let me know if this is helpful. If there is something I forgot to mention that you would like to know, then I can't correct it in this video, but I can definitely correct it in the next videos. I don't know how much I will be posting in the next couple of weeks because my kids go on vacation, and yeah, for some reason they don't really like it when I sit and talk to the camera about watercolors, or they don't care and just you know, make a lot of noise. And then people comment to me, what is happening with your children? Why are they screaming? And then I have to comment, they are fine, they're just loud. So yeah, I wish you happy holidays. I wish you a wonderful new year. Let's all hope that 2022 will be good, normal, healthy, all the stuff we want to wish for ourselves and our loved ones. Thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate you. Everyone that watches, likes, comments, emails me, tags me. I'm just so grateful to be here and be able to, you know, talk to my tribe and communicate with like-minded people. That's it. I'll see you in the next part of the series, probably in the next year. So again, have a wonderful holiday. Happy New Year. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.